today I am doing my April wrap-up. It's a bit late because it is the 7th of May, of May now, and so I'm sorry for the lateness of this, but you've got it, so be happy you have it. So the first book I read in May, I finished on the first day of May, and that is The Scotch Trials by James Dashner. This is the second book in the Maze Runner series, and I've done a review of this and the Maze Runner, which will be linked down below, and also The Death Cure, which is another one on this list. I love this one. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. It was a lot better than the Maze Runner, and a hell of a lot better than the Death Cure. But I really enjoyed this. I cannot say much about this book, about the plot or anything, because I would spoil the first book for people who've not read it. So just read the Maze Runner and go watch my Maze Runner book review and then these book reviews, because none of those are spoilers. So if you want to learn about that, they won't be, I think they're mostly spoiler free. So yeah, so go do that. The next book I read was The Death Cure, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. It was just, I could have given it 2 because this was generous. I really just didn't like it. It was a bad ending to the trilogy. We just didn't learn anything. We didn't answer any questions. It just wasn't good for me. I really didn't like it. So 3 out of 5 stars. I'm not even going to say much about this because I have a review and I'm not happy with it, so I'm not bothered. The next book I read was Fearsome Dreamer, and I got this for a review from Hotkey Books. This is by Laura Eve. The paperback came out in April, so that's why I got this. And I loved this book. I gave it 4 stars, I think, because the beginning was a bit slow. It's a bit slow to get into it, but when it got into it, I was totally hooked by everything, and I can't wait for the sequel. I have a review of this one too, so I will not say too much about it. The review will be linked down below. So yeah, that's Fearsome Dreamer by Laura Eve. The next book is another review book from Piccadilly Press, and that is Crux by Caroline Green. I liked this one, but I didn't love it, and again I have a review of it, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but I have a review that will be linked down below. But I like the characters, and I did like the premise of the world, but I just didn't like how it's played out. So yeah, that's Crux by Caroline Green. The next book I read was Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Lynn Chronicle series, and I don't know why I waited so long to read this book, because I love Cinder, so I don't know why it took me so long to pick up this one. I have a review of Cinder and also a review of this book, which will be linked down below. I really loved Thorn. I did love Thorn, but I really loved Scarlet and Wolf's relationship in this book. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was then Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. I really enjoyed this one, but I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because it took so long to get into the story that by the time it got into the story, it felt like it was just over straight away. Like you really got into it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm into the world, because he doesn't get to the orphanage until about 150 pages in, which is halfway through this book. And the book's about the peculiar children at the orphanage, so the fact that he never got to the home until halfway through the book, I know there needed to be a lot of exposition, but I just feel like that could have been put into it, like in flashbacks and stuff. It didn't need to be so long. But I think I'll love Hollow City a lot more because I love the characters in the world, although I don't like the romance at all. But I have a review of this, which will be linked down below. I did a lot of reviews this month, so yeah, I tell you more of my thoughts in that. The next book I read was a library book, and that was Ketchup Clouds by Annabelle Pitcher. I will put a picture on the screen of the book by Annabelle Pitcher. Puns. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars, but again, I was being a bit generous. I liked the premise of it, but I just didn't like how it was done. I didn't think it was done well. The only thing I liked about this book was the girl's family in it, and they weren't that massive big part in it. They were like a tiny part of it, and this book is about a girl who has committed a murder, and she starts writing to a man on death row because he can't tell her secret. Because she thinks he'll understand, and that sounds like a really great premise to me, but the way it was executed just wasn't for me, and I just really didn't like it. This was on my challenge to read by Books with M's, which I will link down below as well, and I also have a review where I explain my thoughts on it a bit more, and a bit more coherent because it's been a while since I've read it, so link down below. The next book I read was Captives by Jill Williamson. This was my Christian fiction book of the month because I review books for my church, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because it was a bit slow to begin with, and then again it got into it later on, but it still had dropped 2 stars for me by the point where it had been so slow. This is a retelling of the Book of David, I think, and it's about a dystopian world where in the Safe Lands a baby hasn't been born for 3 years because the people in the Safe Lands have this disease that makes the women not strong enough to carry a pregnancy to its end, and they start kidnapping the people from the outside villages because they don't have the disease, so they're strong enough to carry a pregnancy till its end. The next book I finished in April was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This was for my English literature course at A-level, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but again, very, very generous because I don't like this book, not even a little bit. I appreciate it, but I don't like it. I just don't. I've been rating this sporadically 3 out of 5 stars in lessons, and I just really did not enjoy it. So that is Jane Eyre. And the last book I finished in April was Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi. This was my challenge for the month, but I did challenge myself to read 2, which I failed at. My challenge was to read a book that I started and didn't finish, which I had started this but not finished it. And I don't know why I read like 3 pages of it and then just didn't finish it, because I love this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because I just adored it. I adored all the characters and all the world, and I just loved it, and I can't wait to start with Through the Ever Night. I will do a review of this at some point. I think I might film it now. But I really, really enjoyed this one. I just loved it so much. So that was my April wrap up. I will see you again in my May TBR, which I will film now. So see you in that video. Goodbye.